Hello everyone, welcome to Somnium Space, welcome to Art and Coffee Gallery. We are today very excited to invite Angela, Petty Angel. She's here, she's amazing artist. She created these wonderful 2D vector landscapes. Let's get started. So where are you coming from?
I'm actually from Belgium. A couple of years ago, I decided to move to the Netherlands, where I'm still currently living. I've always had affinities with art. I've known from a very early age I've wanted to do something that had to do with art. Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of trying to figure out how to move here, but I'll be okay. Yeah, here. I think my real breakthrough really came with the lockdown last year. So yeah, I had to keep myself busy to avoid going crazy. And since I already had such an affinity with vector art, I really started drawing like mad. But when I say like mad, it's like night and day, literally, you know. A small community started to gather around me.
This vector graphic, tell us a little bit about what is it, what make it different?
Yeah, of course. So basically, vector art is computer generated. I've actually posted a couple of videos on my YouTube channel for people who are interested in really following my creative process and how it works. You know, little by little, I started to make my work evolve, and I wanted to also add some depth in there. It's not that I don't want people in my art or things like that, but I want something that's beyond, you know, the frontiers of gender, race, or whatever. You know, I mean, we're all human beings, and I think landscapes in a way have the power to do that. You reach to something deeper because you're representing nature, you're representing the universe, the world around you, and I think it can have an incredible power. That's what I love about vectors. Actually, it's kind of sizeless, you know. It can be really, really tiny, or it can be huge.
So tell us where people should start if they are interested in something like that.
Strangely enough, you're gonna probably laugh, but I always start with pen and paper. I find that if you create yourself a kind of paper template to begin with, you know, to follow, you're going to have a much easier time to create some beautiful curves, you know, and to get your art where you want it. It's really a lot of hard work.
So maybe if this would be best time to actually start talking about your particular artworks, if there is something special that or some special message in there that you want to share.
Sure. I've been through a very rough patch, you know, in the last year. I was in a relationship with somebody. It lasted for a couple of years. However, that person was somewhat abusive, not physically, but more morally, you know. I really suffered a lot from it. And my art, when I really started drawing during the lockdown, you know, brought me so much happiness and made me feel so much better about myself, you know. That person really tried to break my spirit. And in a way,
sorry to hear that. That's terrible.
What I want to say is that pushed me even further to reach within myself, you know, to finding that inner strength that all of us have. And I think it's really an invitation to introspection and to connect to that deeper part of ourselves.
Just an amazing inspirational story, and I just love how so many artists actually have these. And yeah, I really appreciate that like you come here, and I know that it's difficult to share a story like that, but I think it can help a lot of people that are maybe in similar situation. It can give them strength. If you do what you love, just the journey can give you strength, or at least it's how I see it. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Oh, yes, it does. We shouldn't shame ourselves, you know, in sharing such stories, because like you say, if it can be an inspiration and if it can help other people, then I really wish with all my heart people can get something from this. Never let anybody talk you down, you know. If you have a dream, if there's something you love more than anything in the world, don't let anybody stop you. And even if they'll laugh at you, because that happened to me, you know, just keep going.
Amazing message. I love it.
Thank you.
So maybe we could start with the moon gate and tell us about it, what we are watching.
I've had the chance to live in a foreign country when I was much younger. I've actually lived in Australia, and I've had the chance to be exposed to other cultures in such a different way. Instead of, you know, learning French or German or whatever at school, you know, a lot of people over there learn Japanese. Yeah, slowly you also get acquainted with things that have to do with Japanese culture. And What I really like about Japanese culture is the Zen side of things. It's the simplicity, it's sometimes the power you find in the small things. For instance, I find the Japanese gardens, so relaxing. I think that's really what I tried to create in that piece, this beautiful feeling of being in balance, being in a place where you have beauty all around you that inspires you. It's not necessarily complex things, it's not Versailles. But I don't know, it really strongly connects with me in that regard.
Actually, when you talked about the Zen, a repeating element or just idea of the peacefulness, it's actually really nice because it's almost like they explore these like Zen gardens, but from for different people, different worlds, and different perspective. But it's the same idea.
Yeah, the strange thing, is I'm European and I've known other cultures, and I think it's kind of a blend of, lots of things coming together through the filter also of my personal experience. And it's very tough, I think, to recreate something that's not even of your own culture, but it's more a feeling you're trying to convey. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one, the one behind you. It's also sort of a portal or doorway.
I have a thing for arches. You probably already saw that in some of my pieces, because arches are round, and you probably also noticed that I use a lot of very round shapes, and round curves in my work, because it's something that's really gentle. I think in my work, when you look at something, it's kind of like the black part around the art, is more like, opening a door and plunging into yourself. It's actually what it's supposed to represent, that part where you look within. And that's what the portal is also supposed to be about. When you look within yourself, you make the effort of going into a totally other dimension in some kind of a way. And it's also what the corridors are about, here there's a small corridor and it's really about traveling within, And when you look at it, of course, you have a landscape outside. It's a desert. The desert is a symbol for many, many things, Nothing grows in the desert. It's a very arid place, It can be very, very cold at night and it can be very, very warm during the daytime. So those are quite extremes, and some of us, go through some extremes, at times in our life. I love symbolism, and I think in a way you can really look in depth when you check my work, when you look at it. Yeah, don't be afraid, to use your own interpretation, but I connect a lot to symbolism, It looks realistic, but nothing is there out of the blue. Nothing is there for free. There's always a good reason for it. And I think here the desert, can be sometimes the hardship you have in your life, going through the hard phases. But you also have the night, coming down. So it's kind of like an in-between between the day and night. And I think here what you need to really look at is the dove, the dove that's flying away in the night sky. And with all that hardship, that landscape that's very arid, the night falling and everything, I think what it represents is really the freedom of the soul, What there comes a point when you really search and you really do the work on yourself as a person, where you're like a bird, A lot of the time, we're prisoners of our own mind, And a lot of the time, sadly, the cage is open. So it's also up to us. Do we want to stay in the cage, Do we want to keep ourselves prisoners? Do we want to remain prisoners of our lives? Or do we just want to fly away? It's all within, It's also finding the strength to be able to do that. Because a lot of the time it might be easy to say, yeah, it's up to us. But no, it's also finding the way of thinking, finding the strength to really be able to do that.
Wow, amazing.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm trying to figure out how to look at the mic. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, perfect. You are doing awesome. Okay, so maybe let's move on to these another two that we have here on our left-hand side. So tell us about those. There are some more symbols over there.
Yeah, this one is called the shrine, and it's also something that's got a really deep meaning. Well, all of my work has meaning in my eyes, so yeah, duh. This one I think is more about that place of inner strength, The meaning of this is that no matter what happens in your life, you have places of cold, because what you see around the bubble that's in the center of the piece is supposed to be snow. I'm not sure if that comes out the way I intended, but anyway, it's still, the contrast was really interesting, so I left it there. And what you can actually see is inside the bubble, that the snow isn't completely everywhere. You still have this beautiful Japanese garden gravel, that little tree there, that Joshua tree, and those stones. What this is representing is the strength that we all have inside of us, no matter how the world breaks you, because I think as human beings, nobody escapes the fact that life breaks you, one way or the other. But it's also up to us. Do we want to remain damaged, or do we want to heal ourselves? If you look close, there's a bubble around it. There's a halo around the bubble. And I think what that's really representing is that no matter what happens to you, there's this safe space nobody can get to.
It's amazing. I love the way how you can talk about your art and tell these like super inspirational stories. You have talent not just for the art, but also for the describing the art, which I think is quite rare. So tell us about the last one, which is a little bit different because we have a lot of planets over there, and the butterflies and flowers.
So that one is called Happy Up Here. And Happy Up Here, yeah, it can be about a lot of things again. And I think it's also about a place, of being somewhere within yourself where you can find some strength, but in a different way. For some reason, this one kind of reminds me of my grandma when I look at it in a way. She died a couple of years ago, and she's somebody who really supported me throughout my life, who's always been there. And I know she's in a better place, even though she passed away and she no longer is with me. So Happy Up Here is about, you have your mind, you have your spirit, you have all these things where you can live, it's kind of your safe haven inside of yourself. Happy Up Here is that seed of positivity somewhere inside of your mind, and we're all children of the universe, or at least I'd like to believe in something much larger, even though I'm not Catholic or anything, or I'm not for religion, but I do believe there's a higher power, and the reason why I wanted to put the view as something that's outside planet Earth, I think it's about contemplating also other perspectives in life. Life can have so many facets, it's kind of like a diamond in a way. It can be in the rough, but there are many, many ways of looking at it. You can simply be happy. It's simply, I think, about happiness. There's a beautiful sight, you have the sky, there's something much larger than you. And I think the field of flowers is really about that. They're white. You have this really strong contrast with the rest of the picture. The further you go away, into space, the darker it gets. It's not necessarily something negative or whatever. It's more the fact that you can still create light no matter what happens in your life and keep positive things. The flowers are white, so it can represent some kind of a purity. And the butterflies are something quite symbolic if you actually look at the meaning of them, because, they go through phases in their life. They start as a caterpillar, and then they become a chrysalis. And when that happens, you can be in this place of stagnation where nothing really happens in your life. You can get there for a very, very long time. But when the transformation is over, you come out as this amazing creature. You also have 3 butterflies, and 3 is a number that's also often by people linked to the divine or to Trinity or to whatever, throughout religions. I'm not, again, for any particular religion or anything, but what you tend to see is in many cultures, many numbers sometimes have similar meanings. Yeah, it's about having that special spark, in all of us, and being able to transform, outgrow ourselves, and still keep, in a beautiful, positive space.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
Thank you.
So really all for sort of message of positivity, hope, strength. So when you start creating new artwork, how do you start? Is it the idea, or do you start with the story that you are telling us now, or from the actual artwork and the story comes later?
It kind of depends. I mean, I have different processes. I think as an artist, we all have that kind of moment sometimes where we're in front of the blank canvas and we're looking for inspiration. I have different ways, and either sometimes, I have something that really comes as a vision in my mind, as a flash, and I'm like, oh, I really want to create that. At other times, I love places like Pinterest, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I can sometimes spend hours just looking at pictures on Pinterest, because it's not about copying or anything. It's sometimes just about the vibe, you know. You're looking, I think, when you want to create sometimes for a very specific vibe, I think it's part of the process. How can I recreate that, you know, from my own point of view, from my own personal experience, from what I have within? I also try to keep to a certain way of doing my work. For instance, you will often find very, very strong contrasts. If you look at the artwork around you, a lot of them are colored with a single gradient. For instance, that Zen Garden image we were looking at before, it's one of those pieces where I was just browsing through things, you know, and it kind of came slowly together. That picture took me, I think, 4 days to create. And that one, it was due to the incredible amount of details. If you look at the branches, you can see every single individual leaf on there. And I think that's what took me the longest. I've been doing these branches for 3 days now, and I'm still totally nowhere. So, yeah. Crazy, right?
Especially when I know that like 4 days doesn't mean like 2 hours a day. It's more for like 16, I guess, in your case.
Yeah, in average, I can spend quite a lot of time on a piece, and I think that one is probably one of the craziest ones I've done so far because of the incredible amount of time I've actually put into it. If you go really, really close to that artwork, you will see that every leaf has been shaped, you know, they're all the same leaf. They're all the clone of the same leaf. But I mean, I've resized every single one of them. I've turned the leaf around, you know, to kind of make it come together as a bunch of leaves, you know, a branch, a tree or whatever. And I've actually restyled every individual leaf on there with a gradient to make sure, you know, it would create that beautiful light effect. And yeah, create that magic. It's all about the magic in the end, I think.
Oh yeah. Love magic and love this artwork. Angie, what is the best way if people want to reach you?
I'm constantly connected to social media. I'm available on Twitter. My handle is Petite Angèle, just like here. There's an E with a French accent that for some reason didn't show up here. You can also find me on Discord. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm also on Dribbble. You can also find my work, though my website is not currently super up to date, but I will try to do that real fast.
Nice, thank you. I will put all those links into the description of the video. This was a really wonderful exhibition. I love it. So what we usually do is at the end we just dance together. So thank you everyone for watching, and see you next time. So have a nice
Thank you so much.
Goodbye everyone on the stream and YouTube.